This week's webinar is brought to you by PremiumBeat.com, providing high-quality stock music for all of your video and film projects.
We're back, and we're talking with Jeff Rack, an art director and set designer, about the whole process of production design. Jeff, we've talked about the team. We've talked about how you get guidance from the director, and now it's time to go off in your corner and design a set. Walk me through your workflow. So you've read the script, you've got guidance from the director, you're looking at a blank piece of paper. What happens next?
Right, like I said, I usually have some research material that I've gathered together.
Which would be what?
Photos, images, drawings, that sort of thing that just gives me that we've discussed, has a general sense of what the feeling of the piece is and what the particular set is. So then I'll go off and I usually do a floor plan drawing first, so I can see everything it's scaled to the space that we're going to be building the set in, and make sure that we have all the practical elements in place.
Now, what's a practical element? Practical
elements are all the pieces that the director needs that are called out for in the story. Where if it's like a drawing room set, how many doors are there? Is there a special window? What is the lighting setup? What's the furniture arrangement? Those type of things that you actually physically need, because they're called out in the set in a certain way. Based on that, you have that to work off of. And so you take that and you start to create what the look of the piece is going to be. But you start off with, at least I do, I start off with the floor plan drawing.
Now, when you're creating the floor plan, what software are you using?
There's a lot of different software programs out there. I'm old school, so I love to put pen to paper. I can actually do it quicker that way than on a program. I've tried the programs, and it's just a little sterile for me. But I recommend that people do, learn those processes and use them. I do pencil to paper, and I can do it quicker that way myself.
Jeff, I want to take a look at some of the plans that you've put together. Let's go to our first floor plan. Tell us about this.
So this is a set for a show called Patterns, written by Rod Serling, and it's actually up now at Theater 40 in Beverly Hills. This floor plan basically shows you the configuration in this particular piece. There's three main offices of the three main characters in the piece, and then there's also a secretarial pool. So the stacking order in this is kind of interesting, because I wanted the three offices to be in the foreground, and so I actually elevated the secretarial area behind them. Even though the idea is that they're all on the same floor. You never see any actors go downstairs or go upstairs, so that kind of illusion is created. But this is definitely a theatrical device, especially with the three offices being basically right next to each other. There's no wall separating them.
Well, let's take a look at the finished result.
So this is it's a 1950s period piece, so that was very critical to make it look like a 1950s building. So I love Art Deco, so I kind of created this Art Deco look. Also the marble. In this case, I went with the green palette, and so it's all the green marble, which I did all the marbleizing, which is kind of fun to create that kind of thing, and all the Art Deco sconces, all the Art Deco furniture, just the pieces, all the 50s elements that make you feel like you're in that time period.
Let's take a look at another floor plan. Tell us about this one.
This is for a piece called Verderees. It was written by Jim Beaver, who you might be familiar with from Supernatural and Deadwood. He wrote this piece, and this is an old house, interior and exterior, also a theater piece. You needed to be able to have conversations and scenes happening outside while you still were able to look inside of the building, so it's a very exploded idea. This whole area that you're seeing upstage is all platforms, so it was all raised. So a lot of platforming went down before you even start building the set on top of it.
Now, for a director that can't read a floor plan, what can you show them?
Usually I always do a rendering also along with the floor plan.
So let's see the rendering for this.
So this is a not-to-scale rendering of what you just saw in the floor plan. Basically everything is still laid out according to what the floor plan was, but you get a better sense of the look of the thing. You can see how walls are exploded out. Also in this particular piece, there's actual elements of the house floating above the audience, and it's almost like there's an explosion that came from that bed. You can see the crack in the wall because the central character is this explosive character that kind of controls everything. So we created that metaphorically with this exploded house and this crack that leads right down to her. She's an invalid in the bed.
Jeff, both of these floor plans have been designed for theater.
Right.
What's the difference between designing a set for theater and designing a set for film?
For the most part, it's in theater. As you can see, especially in these two specific pieces, there's a more theatrical element to it. It's not as realistic looking. You can go more into the realm of this unreal, surreal quality to it. In film, usually you're dealing with sets that are more realistically designed and created and based on. So that's the main difference in it. I mean, the approach is the same. But that's the main difference.
Is your workflow the same?
Workflow in the sense of
designing the set?
Pretty much the same. I mean, it's still the same process. With a film, there's usually more steps involved to get there because you're dealing with budgets in a different way. Whether it's a location shot where you're augmenting it or where you're having to build it from scratch. So obviously when you're doing a theatrical show, there's not any location shooting. So there's just different steps involved, but it's basically the same process.
We've got one more set. Let's take a look at that. Tell us about this one.
This is Dreams of the Washer King, and this was at Theater 40. And this is an interesting piece because it's a combination. You're having to put two very different realities on one stage. So you have on the stage right area, which is your screen left, the house, and you have the kitchen area, which is down on the stage floor, and then behind it is a raised area of this young man's attic bedroom. So you have that going on over there, and then on the stage left side, which is your screen right, you have this surreal landscape that he escapes to. And so to bridge the two worlds, I actually had it slowly breaking up. You can see holes in the wall in the center area, and then completely coming apart. And you see the lath and plaster pieces, on either side, and you're looking through into this, this surreal landscape that goes off in depth, off into the distance.
Let's take a look at the finished result.
So this, you can see that pretty closely matches the rendering. You don't get as good of a view here of the surreal aspect, but you can see how much depth there is to that. I actually, on the floor, which you can't see here, but I actually built a curved floor that went up into a mountain range, and then you had the sky behind it and the moon and all those elements. There's also things hanging off of the broken lath and plaster pieces. There's letters floating, and it's almost like this giant mobile. But you can see the different elements on the stage right side, the upper area where the attic room is with lighting, the cool and the warms really breaks it out, and you know that you're looking at two different locations within the same house.
With these three sets, about how big a crew was it to build?
A lot of times it's me doing it. I mean, I have some help. I have a couple people that come in and help me in initial construction, some painting. I'm getting more and more interns and mentoring more people, which is great for them and for me. So that's happening more and more. But it's usually pretty small on the theater sets because there's just not a big budget for a crew.
And how long does it take to create?
Usually, I mean, the design process, I can usually design it fairly quickly. I get a pretty strong idea and put it down, and I'm usually pretty accurate with what they're going for. The building of it is usually around 3 weeks or so for a theatrical set.
And ballpark budgets for these, what would be a range?
Probably from around 10 to 12,000. That's including my fee. So
on the low end.
On the low end.
Well, what it means is that people don't have to spend tons and tons of money to be able to get really, really good-looking sets.
Exactly, right.
This has been an excerpt of a recent Power Up webinar taking a look at production design, art direction, and set design. For the complete version of this online training, please visit our store at larryjordan.com/store and look for Webinar 169. By the way, if you need to stretch your training dollars, a membership to our video training library saves you money and time. You can access all of our videos for a low monthly price of only $19.99. That's more than 1,200 movies, hundreds of hours of training, all in-depth and all up-to-date. Plus, members can attend any of our Power Up webinars for free. Our training covers Apple and Adobe software. We update it every week, and for more information, visit larryjordan.com/membership. And thanks.